to know that one of your cousins was at that game and had been crushed, and you know, seeing his mum and his dad and his close family, you know, the reaction on their faces and stuff helped to drive me on to become the player I am today.
Steven Gerrard is one of the thousands of people whose life changed on April 15th, 1989. 96 people lost their lives in what is considered the biggest tragedy in Premier League history. Today, all that remains is a wall and a lot of unanswered questions. But what happened in this stadium in Sheffield on that fateful day? England thought they would be watching an unmissable spectacle. The FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest, two of the Premier League's historic clubs. But after 5 minutes of play, the celebration turned into a nightmare. 96 dead, 766 injured, a nation shocked. But how did such a terrible event occur? The scene has to be set. A high-stakes game. Two major teams. The stadium was obviously full for this encounter. After all, we are talking about English football, but the pressure from the crowd became too great at the entrance of the stadium, which is when David Duckenfield, the city's chief of police, made a monumental mistake. He opened the gates to the stadium. The crowd on the outside moved towards already full stands. A tragedy. Following the movement of the crowd, spectators climbed the barrier which separated them from the pitch. The fans already inside found themselves pushed against the fences which surrounded them. Impossible to breathe. Security guards and police officers hurried to help those they could. Unfortunately, it was already too late. There were significant losses. Truly horrifying. The day after the disaster, the Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher struggled to find words. Despite the shock, the police inquiry found no answers. But the families of the victims only wanted one thing: to move on and turn the page thanks to the truth. There was suspicion around the country, but in 2012, the truth finally came out. Having lied for many years, David Duckenfield admitted his mistake. Premier League clubs have never ceased in showing their support for Liverpool, all except one: Manchester United. The majority of Red Devils fans respect this symbolic date, but in 2012, some dared to do the unthinkable. During the derby, horrifying chants were heard. "Always the victims," insinuating that the Reds were in part to blame for this drama. Who do you think stepped in? Sir Alex Ferguson, of course. This is the time for supporters of these two great clubs to represent their clubs with the integrity and honour that our glorious history demands. After all, even the greatest rivalries have to have their limits. 30 years after the tragedy, Jurgen Klopp and his players paid homage to the victims and their families. Unfortunately for the Premier League, Hillsborough is not the only tragedy an English club has experienced. Discover the nightmare Manchester United went through, which shocked the entire world.